Hello everyone, this is our second online lecture. Here I'm covering the set of PowerPoints titled Chapter 1. Okay, as you know, I told you before in class, this set of PowerPoint was presented to me by one of my colleagues whom I knew like 15 years ago. Okay, and I'm thankful for him. So this is our course, Principles of Economics. Remember, I uploaded for you out of my Word documents, Shireen_1 and Shireen_3. I recorded for you the introduction to economics and opportunity cost and the use of math and the graphing in economic analysis. Today, actually, we will have some repetitions in this set of PowerPoint along with other stuff that I did not cover. So I'm going to go through it because already it is uploaded on your Microsoft Teams. Okay, here this is a part that we did not cover before. Okay, here it says in economics we use the terminology economy. Okay, we say the word economy a lot. Okay, we say the Egyptian economy, the American economy, the Saudi economy, the Emirati economy, the British economy, and the question is, does that have to do with anything in economics? The answer is actually yes and no at the same time. Okay, no, because economy here means a country. Okay, if I am a politician, somebody is studying political sciences, I would call, let us say, I'm going to call Egypt country. Okay, if I am a person who, for example, a sociologist, somebody who's teaching sociology, okay, I'm going to call it society. I'm going to call the Egyptian society or Egyptian community. If I'm studying, let us say, for example, psychology or something like that. In economics, we call countries economies. Okay, so we say Egyptian economy, it means the country that's called Egypt. Saudi economy, this is the country that's called Saudi Arabia. American economy, this is the country that's called USA. Okay, that's for part number one. Okay, so economy is the singular word, and if you want to put it in as plural, you say economies. You put E-C-O-N-O-M-I-E-S. You put it like this. You take the Y away and you put I-E-S. To indicate economies, it means several countries. Now, the important part is that each country or each economy is composed of sectors. This is a fact that applies to all countries of the world. Okay? Example of sectors. What are the sectors? These are the different industries. And by the way, when I say industries, do not think that I am excluding agriculture, because agriculture itself is an industry. An industry here, it means something that is so complicated. Okay? Something that has so many components. It is not just something that we so simple and so naive that doesn't have complexities. So we say that agriculture is an industry. We call it the industry of agriculture. And then we call the industry, what about the industry of industry itself? We call it the industry of manufacturing. And what about the industry of commerce? Okay, we call it the industry of commerce. The industry of fishery, okay, and so on. Okay, so the word industry, it means that we are talking about a sector, okay, or something that is so complicated, full of things and full of details. If you know what is happening in the agricultural industry, you will be actually surprised. Okay, it is a very complicated and very unrisky industry. Examples of sectors that make any economy or any country, what are they? The oil sector, the manufacturing sector, the commercial sector, the agricultural sector, the agribusiness sector, the tourism sector, the services sector, and so on. Okay, and here I told you surf the web to identify the different sectors which compose the Egyptian economy and the share of each sector in the Egyptian national income. Okay, now this is something that is probably for you not clear. Okay, if you go to the Google, for example, and you put in Google the different sectors that compose the Egyptian economy. The different sectors that compose the Egyptian economy. then Google will get you a document or several documents actually, because they get that from the libraries of all of the world, and you'll see that you will see a list of the sectors that make the Egyptian economy. In addition, as I said here, which is important, it is the share of each sector in the national income of the country. What here I am talking about is actually is a little complicated, and it needs a background, because a person like you studying economics for the first time in his life or in her life, it is very, very hard to understand that. What is national income, for example? What is the national income of the country? How do you measure my income? What is income, first of all? Income is all the earnings that come to me, okay, from all the sources of income that I have, including the job that out of which I take a salary, okay? So income, it comes from the word income, something that comes in, okay? So it means, for example, the College of Agriculture cannot know my income, but the College of Agriculture knows my salary. Salary is a monthly payment that I receive from the college each month, because I am a professor emeritus working in the College of Agriculture, Alexandria University. Actually, the employee in the accounting department of the college will know exactly my salary, okay? But nobody on the planet except the government, okay? Because I pay taxes, remember, like anybody else. Anybody else, the government will know if I own it. For example, suppose that I take a salary from the college, and I own an apartment in Cairo out of which I get rent, and I have a farmland. I have a farm that out of which I produce meat and other vegetables. Whatever comes to me from all these sources, including my salary in a given year, because income must be counted in a year time. Okay, this is called income. So now forget about Shireen. I'm talking about Shireen. Forget about Shireen and replace Shireen with Egypt. Okay? If I talk about the personal income of Shireen, then the examples I just told you, these are examples of the personal income of Shireen. What about the income of the country as a whole? We call it national income. Okay? It has other terminologies such as gross domestic product or GDP, gross national product or GNP, but all of them are actually approximation of national income. What is national income? National income is the income of the whole country in a given year. Because remember, we have different sectors. All these different sectors produce goods and services. Goods, these are the things that are tangible. Tangible means we can touch. Anything you can touch is called a good. Okay? A good, it means a سلعة. Okay? Anything that tangible, يعني touchable. يعني you can touch. يعني something materialistic. Okay? For example, the laptop, the bed, the table, your pen, your mobile, your clothing, all these are goods. Why do we call it goods? Because usually most of these things serve humans. Okay? They are useful. That's why we call them goods. Goods, Goods, comes from the word good. Okay? So the word good in economics is used to indicate سلعة. Okay? Tangible, something that you can touch. Okay? That usually offers you benefit, or what we call it utility, or what we call it satisfaction, or what we call it pleasure. That's why we call it good. But remember that some of the goods that are considered the goods in the science of economics are actually bads. Okay? Because I said goods comes from the word good, which is something that provides benefit to us. What are examples of bads, which are actually goods in the economic terminology, but they are bads? For example, weapons. Okay? Fighter jets, tanks, things that are used to destroy things. Okay? All these examples, cigarettes. These actually cigarettes are harmful for us, but they are considered in the science of economics to be goods. Okay? And anything else that is harmful for us, but is still tangible, something that we can touch, is considered a good. We still call it goods in economics. We don't call it bads, because remember, a country might find out that it needs to strengthen its army, because if they don't do that, they will lose everything. So they have to spend the money on buying or by producing weapons. So despite that, they are used for destruction, but also they are used to defend the country. and we need that because we have to defend ourselves. But these are examples of, in economics anyway, all of what I mentioned, including cigarettes, that are considered goods. But remember that some of the goods are bad. Okay? So the national income, the sectors, the different sectors that compose and that make any economy, these are the industries or sectors that produce goods and the services. What are the services? The services, these are the services are the non-tangible items, anything that you cannot touch. For example, when you sit in my class listening to my lecture, you are receiving educational service. Okay? The question is, can you tell me, okay, how much does it weigh, for example? وزنها قد ايه? Can you tell me that? When you go to the movie to watch a movie, okay, you want to go to a theater to watch a movie, let us say in City Center Mall or any other mall, and you enjoy the movie. After you leave the movie, do you have a bag in your hand carrying the entertainment, التسلية that you got because you watched the movie? Here you are receiving entertainment services. So services, these are the types of things, that are non-tangible. It means you cannot touch, it doesn't exist. Educational services, banking services, medical services, tourism services, entertainment services, these all are examples of things that are produced in an economy in a given year, but you cannot touch. Okay, they also have prices. Remember, you do not do that, you do not get the services for free, you pay a lot of money for it. Some of the services are very, very expensive. Okay, so the different sectors that make any economy actually are called industries. Okay, and each one of these things, like the oil, okay, what is the oil industry or the oil sector? The oil sector is a sector that is that pertains to producing gasoline that we use for automobiles, kerosene, and all of the things and items that come from the oil industry. I'm not an oil expert, okay? I can tell you in agriculture, for example, what agriculture can produce. They produce all the food that you eat, all the fruits, from vegetables to fruits, to animal products, to milk, to wood, to rubber, to fish. All these are examples of things that the agricultural sector produce. Okay, and you know that in each country almost all sectors exist, even in some states such as the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Bahrain, and this type of countries where the agricultural sector is very little, okay, and very minor, but they still have it because they produce some stuff. You know that they have lots of dates, okay. They produce dates, they produce milk, they produce chicken. Okay. Now we come to the word share that I put here. Okay. The share of each sector. Okay. The bigger the share of the sector, the more important that sector is in the country. Because remember, if the sector provides a lot, okay, in terms of the national income of the country, it means that the sector is very, very important. Okay? The share, what is the share of the sector? How much, what it is exactly the percentage of national income that is provided by that sector. Let me give you an example about Egypt prior to the revolution of 1952. Okay, when King Farouk was the ruler and Egypt was at the time was a monarchy, كانت ملكية. Agriculture at that time was the main source of the national income of Egypt. It contributed close to 45% of the Egyptian national income. Believe it or not. Close to 45% of Egyptian national income. Now, if you go to Google and you write the current contribution of the agricultural sector to the Egyptian national income, and by the way, it improved a lot in the past 6 years, actually ever since El-Sisi became as a president, because El-Sisi made a lot of emphasis on agriculture. Okay, before that, everybody was running away from agriculture. And that's why we were starving at a point in time, especially in the early 1980s. We were starving, and actually we were starving even before that. But we did not leave that, luckily for you, but I lived that. Okay, it was a big issue to find food. Okay, a big issue to find food. Because the country did not pay attention and did not stress on the importance of the agricultural sector, and no investments have been made in that sector for decades. Decades, it means tens of years. Actually, the agricultural sector is downhill from the year 1952, okay, all the way till Sisi came to power in 2014. Sisi had a very I'm talking about history, by the way. I'm not pro or against anybody. I'm just saying that he is, in my opinion, the first president, because remember, before 1952 we had monarchs, we had kings. He is the first president ever to stress enormously on the agricultural sector, inviting investments to that sector, and because he knew, along with the administration that he has, that it is, if the country cannot provide its own food, then the country will never be a stronger country. So if you look at in Google now, I would say that the share of the agricultural sector in Egypt is a little less than 20%, okay, which is still very, very high. But I can assure you that this share will keep on growing the way I see the Egyptian economy performing. So here, the whole idea is that the more the share of a certain sector, the more important that sector is in the economy. The less the share of that sector in the national income of a certain country, it means the less important that sector is in the country. Okay, now let us look at the United Arab Emirates economy, because actually the reason it is United Arab Emirates economy, because the person who developed this set of PowerPoints was living in the United Arab Emirates at the time where I was working with him in the United Arab Emirates University. Okay, let us look at a pie chart that shows us how things are, how these sectors and the share of each sector is or looks like in the Emirati economy. This is what is called a pie chart. Pie comes from the word pie, you know, the pie that you eat, al-fatira. Okay, this is an example of the United Arab Emirates economy. Okay, in the year 2003, forget about that because we are not studying the share. I don't care about which one is bigger than this or what one. The whole idea is that this is one way, this is a chart, a pie chart. This is something that we can display. And if you look at it, you can tell just by looking at it what are the main sectors that contribute to the Emirati economy in the year 2003. And here they tell you that total, this amount of money, okay, this is the value, okay, million AED, it means Arab Emirates dirham. Source of that data is MOP, which is Minister of Planning. Okay, and we know, you know, the Emirati dirham is $1 is 3.66 Emirati dirham, almost. Okay, it has been fixed for years. Okay, this is the value of the national income of the the United Arab Emirates in the year 2003. Okay, now what is important in that graph is to know the contribution of sectors. For example, you see the mining sector, which is right here. What is the mining sector? The mining sector includes the oil sector. The mining sector هو قطاع التنجيم, يعني digging into the ground. Okay, it contributes in the year 2003, it contributed 32% of the Emirati national income, which is very, very high. It is the highest in the graph. Okay, actually it is followed by the manufacturing sector, which contributes 14% of the Emirati national income, followed by others, which contribute 12%. Others, it means a group of industries, a group of sectors. Construction sector contributes 6% of the Emirati national income, commerce 9% of the Emirati, transportation and communication 8%, financial sector, that is the banking sector, contributes 6% of the Emirati national income, and then we have government 10%. What does it mean, government 10%? These are governmental projects. These are projects that are owned by the government and produced by the government, public sector, you can say. Okay, we have the same thing here. Okay, so here if you look at that graph, you can tell easily that mining or oil is the most important sector in the United Arab Emirates in the year 2003. And you can say also that agriculture and fisheries, by the way, actually it is not only agricultural sector, it is agriculture and fisheries, because if you put agriculture in the Emirati pie chart here by itself, it will be less than 1%. But because they have a good fishery sector, that's why the percentage is 3%, because it is agriculture and the fishery. Okay, so it is the least important. Okay, not the least important in terms of its importance, because remember, because the agricultural sector in the United Arab Emirates is very small, the United Arab Emirates has to import a lot of food from all over the world. From all over the world. And if there is no food, if there is war, they will be in deep problem. They can starve to death. Okay? And actually what the United Arab Emirates government is doing in recent years is that they try to secure an amount of food that is locally and domestically produced. So in case there is a war, okay, remember the war doesn't have to include UAE. The war could be just surrounding UAE. Remember, Iran is very close to UAE. Okay? So if we have a war, if, for example, usually food comes through water channels, okay, the Arabian Gulf and these kind of areas. So if there is a war of some type, then, and if the food cannot come to the country, then people will starve to death. So what they are trying to do in order to achieve, for them to achieve food security, what they call it food security, they need to produce a certain amount of food that will allow them to survive at least for a period of time, and they are trying to lengthen that period of time. So just in case there is a war, they can have their own food, because the agricultural sector is very important, and it is very little here, 3% only, including agriculture and fishery. Okay, if you put that, okay, now let me tell you, because I know now about UAE economy, I know that, okay. Now the mining sector is still the most important sector in UAE, but the contribution of the mining sector to the United Arab Emirates national income is declining. Okay, actually it's declining, which is a good sign. The reason, because the UAE economy does not want to depend on oil only, because if oil prices are good, the economy is doing great. If oil prices are bad, the economy is suffering. So they do not want to rely on one source of income, and they want to diversify. Okay, they make varieties of the sources of national income. So as a result, the contribution of the oil sector now in the United Arab Emirates is less than, I can tell you, it is, to the best of my knowledge, it is like 21%, okay, which is a good sign for the United Arab Emirates economy, because they were aiming at that. They don't want to be oil dependent. They want to have other sources of income. And again, you are welcome, guys, to go to Google and write down the contribution or the share of the mining sector in the United Arab Emirates economy, and you compare to the number that we have it here that is obtained from the Ministry of Planning over there. Okay, and you see the contribution of that sector, it will be less than that, which is a good sign to the economy. Okay, I think I am done with that. So we are done with that part. Now we come to another part that is very important in economic analysis. Okay. Somebody will ask me, what is the hocus pocus that is written here? Hocus pocus is a terminology, okay, that is used in the United States of America to indicate anything. Some garbage. Some garbage is called the hocus pocus. If you are saying nonsense, if you are talking nonsense, we say that you are saying hocus pocus. Okay? Now, what is Ceteris paribus? Okay, it is pronounced Ceteris paribus. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, is it English language? If you put it in, if you try to look to the meaning of Ceteris paribus in any English or American dictionary, you will never find the meaning of that, because it doesn't exist, because it is not English language, it is Latin. Okay, it is Latin. It means other things being equal, or other things are the same, or all other factors remain unchanged, or everything else remain constant, or as we say in economics, it means the word comparative statics. Comparative statics. Let me try to write it legibly. I'm afraid to touch the slide, because if I touch the slide, it will be, I can use my fingers writing, but if I touch the slide, the problem is that it will jump to another one. Okay? Comparative statics, or Ceteris paribus, it means that, remember, we use mathematics in economics. Let us say we have y is a function of x1, x2, x3, all the way to xn. Okay? And remember, in my first video, I explained to you the meaning of a mathematical function. Okay? Whatever is to the left, which is y, okay? We said y is a function of x1 all the way to xn. Y is called the dependent variable, or the argument of the function. and the x's are called the explanatory variable or the independent variable of the function. And the meaning of the mathematical functions, as I told you before in video 1, when any of the x's changes, y will change accordingly. Now the question is, do we in our analysis, especially at your level, because we are studying, remember, the math we are studying is college algebra in addition to two-dimensional graphs, اللي هي الرسومات اللي هي ثنائية الأبعاد. We do not have multi-dimensional graphs. We do not have that. Okay? If we have so many variables changing at the same time, we use sophisticated mathematics, sophisticated algebra. Okay? As I told you, differential calculus, difference equations, differential equations, optimal control theory, dynamic optimization, so many types of mathematical programming and algebra that is not primitive, that is not introductory, that not even intermediate. It's all advanced. So now I want to introduce economics to you. At your level, you are not supposed to be fluent in math. You're not supposed to be genius in math. So what do I do with you in that case? Okay? What do I do with that case is that I explain things using a two-dimensional graph, which means that we are measuring the dependent variable y vertically and the independent variable x horizontally, and I show you when x changes what will happen to y. Okay? Now I told you that sometimes we have a function, y is a function of more than one x. How can I do that? I do that using the terminology, the Latin terminology, Ceteris paribus. I tell you, I'm going to change only one of the x's, okay, and seeing the impact of that on the value of y, holding all the other x's constant at the time of that examination. Okay? يعني I'm going to see what will happen to y, let us say when x3 changes, given that the value of x1, x2, x4, x5, all the way to xn are held constant at the time of the analysis. So in that case, I'm going to graph x3 horizontally and y vertically. Okay, and now I'm going to tell you if x goes up, what will happen to y, if x goes down, what will happen to y, given that the other x's are held constant at the time of analysis. This is the meaning of the expression Ceteris paribus, or the meaning of the economic expression comparative static analysis, which is تحليل الاستاتيكية المقارنة in economics, which means that you are assuming that one of the x's, one of the independent variables will change at a time, holding all the other x constants at the time of analysis, and you want to see the impact of that change in that variable on the value of y. This is the meaning of other things being equal, other things are the same, everything else remains unchanged, Ceteris paribus comparative statics. Okay? As we said here, it is an important expression in studying complex situations because we assume that one variable only changes and the rest of the independent variables are held constant at the time of examination. Okay? And here we have a lot of things I can tell you in economics, examples in economics. We say in economics that the quantity demanded of a product is a function of its own price. When the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. When the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Okay? In order for the phrase that I just said to be correct, I have to say that holding all the other things, all the other variables that affect the quantity demanded constant at the time of that analysis. Okay, what are the things that affect the quantity demanded? Do you think the price is the only thing that affects the quantity demanded? Do you think that people buy products just because they are cheap and they do not buy other products just because they are expensive? Do you think, for example, that if let us say I'm not married, I don't have a mother, I don't have a sister, I don't have any female that I know in my life, okay, and I'm rich, do you think I'm gonna buy high heel shoes, for example? هشتري جزم كعب عالي to do what with it? Okay, do you think that if I do not know how to drive, okay, I'm gonna buy a car? Or if I do not travel distances, I'm gonna buy a car? Somebody will tell me if you are rich you can buy a car with a driver, I know, okay, but probably, okay, because part of the people who buy cars, like myself, I buy a car because I enjoy automobiles. I enjoy driving. I know not in this country, but in general, I enjoy driving. Okay. So let us say that, for example, you do not use perfumes at all. From your point of view, you consider it, something extravagant, حاجة يعني فزلكة. Some of the extremists. متطرفين, they consider it haram, probably, I don't know. In that case, you'll never buy perfumes Despite that, you have the financial ability and the income to buy perfumes. Okay. Also, sometimes I buy more of meat because the price of chicken is getting up, and chicken is a substitute for meat. Okay. And sometimes I buy less of meat because the rice which complements بيكمل الوجبة of the meat is actually expensive. Okay. There are so many factors that affect the purchases of people. That's an example in consumption theory. Why do I give you example in consumption theory? Because all of you are consumers. Okay, I know that none of you earn income, but all of you are consumers. And why do I use food? Because all of you eat. Okay, because here it says, give me some examples in the science of economics. And what I am talking about is called the demand function for something. Okay, let us say the demand function for meat. The demand function for meat states that the quantity demanded of meat is a function of the price of meat itself, which is the own price of meat, the price of the closest substitute to meat, it could be chicken, the price of the biggest complement and the major complement to meat, it could be rice, income of the consumers, tastes of the consumers, and other things such as customs, traditions, religion, because sometimes you do not eat something because it is disallowed by your religion and your beliefs, or by customs, like how many of you eat rabbits, for example. Okay? How many of you eat goose, اللي هو الوز. I've never eaten a goose in my life. How many of you eat camels? Okay? And so on. So sometimes these are factors all affect the quantity demand. But when I graph the demand curve, I put quantity demanded versus the own price of the commodity. What about the other variables that are affecting the quantity demand? They are not in the picture, because at the time of examining the relationship between the price of the commodity and the quantity demanded, I assume that everything else affecting the quantity demanded is held constant, which is Ceteris paribus. So the law of demand, اللي هو بنسميه قانون الطلب, states that as the price, there is an inverse relationship between the price of the commodity and the quantity demanded. By the way, in economics, we assume that price is the independent variable and the quantity demanded is the dependent variable. So when we say that the law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship or negative relationship between the price of the commodity and the quantity demanded, it means that what we are saying that as the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. As the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. And we have to say Ceteris paribus. Other things remain the same. Everything else, other things being equal, everything else remains the same. Because we are changing only the own price of the commodity, holding all the other variables that could affect the quantity demanded constant. Okay? Because we have a two-dimensional graph. We are measuring one variable horizontally, and we are other variable vertically. Okay? And later on you will see something funny I will talk about when we talk about the demand function, because actually despite that we say that the quantity demanded is a function of its own price. Okay? We measure price vertically and the quantity demanded horizontally, but that's a different story that we'll talk about when we address it. Okay? Hopefully I give you some examples about what is Ceteris paribus and what is the meaning of it with some examples in economics. Okay, here I'm going to talk about things that we assume. Remember, in our course, inshallah, after we are done with the midterm exam and the introductory part of the course, which takes exactly 50% of the course, okay, we will be talking about the behavior of the consumers. Okay, how do consumers behave? Okay, and inshallah, when we study principles of agricultural economics in the second semester, we will study how producers behave. Okay, and remember, everything that I say in that course is required for our next course. And actually, it is required for all economics courses that you will study for the rest of your life. Nothing that I have said ever since I saw your face in the first Thursday of the first week of classes this semester, all the way till you study economics 30 years from now, all what I said and all what I am saying right now is always required. There is nothing as such in economics as saying, okay guys, forget about what we covered in the first semester, let us start something new in the second semester. Whatever I said in the first semester is required in the second semester. So because it is like one unit. I might not ask you a question. Actually, I may not ask you questions about consumption stuff when we study agricultural economics in second semester, but all the 50% that I told you, the introductory part to economics is required everywhere in all economics courses, whether they are introductory, intermediate, or advanced. So please pay attention to that. And that's why I'm asking you to please try to understand. Here in consumption theory, we are saying that, remember, we are talking about the economic problem that I addressed before in our classes, and I addressed it in our video number 1. Okay? We have the economic problem, a problem of scarcity and the choices. We have the scarce resources on the one hand, and then we have infinite human wants on the other hand. With resources, each resource has so many alternative uses. So we want to know how exactly we should use these resources in the best way possible given what we have in order to maximize our satisfaction and pleasure. A very important assumption in the theory is that to assume that people are rational. Rational, it means that they know what is best for themselves. It means that they are not crazy nuts. Okay? We do not talk about odd cases. مش بنتكلم على الحالات الشاذة. بنتكلم على, or we talk about the majority of the consumers. Okay, the majority of consumers are rational. Rational, it means they know what is best for themselves. Okay, it means that if you decide that you are gonna go to the food court and spend the money on a Big Mac combo, it means that you believe that if you consume the Big Mac combo, it will maximize your satisfaction or pleasure or happiness given the amount of money that you're gonna spend on that meal. Otherwise, you will not do that. But remember, the rational behavior, knowing the best that you can do given what you have from your point of view, does not mean optimal. Optimal, it means that the best there is that you can do given everything that you have, and it must be assessed or determined after studying your case. Okay? And definitely we in economics do not study individuals. I mean, I'm not going to study, for example, Shireen's case. What does Shireen do? Because nobody cares about Shireen. I care about, for example, the consumers of Alexandria. Or, for example, the old people in Alexandria, or probably the young people in Alexandria, or probably females living in Alexandria, or probably all the females living in Alexandria. That's what we care about when we do any type of study. You don't study the behavior of Shireen. Nobody cares about Shireen or anybody else. Okay? So we have to assume that I am rational, or we are rational. For example, I'm not gonna see that I am sick of life, so I'm gonna jump from the window. This is not a rational behavior. Okay, and do not tell me that everybody has a choice to make. Okay, the choice for you that you will make by committing suicide, by killing yourself, is not a rational behavior. Okay, so as a result, we say that you are alive because God wants you to be alive. Okay, you do not have the choice of killing yourself, because if you make that choice, you are not behaving economically. You are not rational, simply are crazy nuts. Okay. So the rational behavior, for example, let us say that, assume that I'm the kind of people who likes to smoke. Alhamdulillah, I do not smoke, but let us say that I smoke. Well, I'm gonna go to buy a pack of cigarettes. Why do I'm gonna go to buy a pack of cigarettes? Because from my point of view, smoking a cigarette will maximize my pleasure given the money that I have. Okay, but the question is, I told you, cigarettes are examples of bads, not goods. Here I'm destroying my health, I'm destroying the health of others as well, because I'm polluting the air. Okay, in that case, this is rational behavior, because this is consuming a cigarette is the best from my point of view, but not the optimal behavior, because the optimal behavior means that what I should buy given what I have, and what I should buy should be the best there is, not only for me, but it could be for the society as a whole. So here by spending your money on cigarettes, despite that it is a rational behavior, it is not optimal. It is not the best that you can do. Okay? So consumers are rational. We assume that in order to be able to make a theory, if there are alternative choices, consumers will choose what is best for them. Remember, from their point of view, not necessarily from the science point of view, science of economics. Okay? Here, consumers need to make a choice about what to consume, how much to consume, when to consume it, okay, whether the price is suitable or not, among the price of the product, the quality of the product, among so many other things. Okay, that if you examine all of that, you will come up with the conclusion, I'm going to buy a Big Mac combo, for example. We call that a decision-making problem, okay? Because humans make decisions, okay? You should make your decisions based on the best practices that you should make given what you have, okay? And here what we mean by economic analysis is that in economic analysis, actually, we assess or we evaluate all of the alternatives through a certain type of economic analysis that usually includes the mathematics and statistics, and in the end, and computer for sure. You need some software to be able to conduct the economic analysis. In the end, you come up with the conclusion about what is the best alternative that you should do. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we can talk forever here about that. What is the difference between what is desired and what can you buy? Okay, remember, sometimes you desire something. For example, you desire, let us say, sushi. Okay, but sushi is expensive and you cannot buy it. Okay, so as a result, when we talk about your purchasing behavior, your buying habits, we have to include what you can afford. Because if you cannot afford what you are talking about, it means that this is not a choice available for you. Let me give you an example about that. All of us in class, let us say, dream of having a Ferrari. A Ferrari is a very expensive sports automobile. But the question is, do you think that any one of us in class, myself included, are on the demand function of Ferrari? Okay, and the answer is no, because none of us can afford a Ferrari. Okay, so actually if somebody from Ferrari factory comes in our class and he looks at us and he said the moment he will look at our faces, he will leave the class. He will not waste his time by telling us, hey guys, I advise you to buy a Ferrari. Because we are not on the demand function for Ferrari, because simply you cannot afford the Ferrari. And in case you do not understand the Ferrari, it is a very expensive Italian sports automobile. Just imagine Mercedes. All of you know Mercedes. Okay. Again, none of us is almost on the demand function for Mercedes, because we do not have the purchasing power or the money to buy it. And as a result, it is not one of our choices. When you talk about choices, you talk about, I'm not talking about dreams. I'm talking about the things that you can afford, things that you have the money to pay for. Okay? In economics in general, no matter how rich or poor you are, we assume that income is limited. Okay? What does mean income is limited? It means, remember, income is limited given what you have in your mind. Okay? Remember, my income is way bigger than your income. If you have an income to start with because you have an allowance. Okay? But again, my dreams are way different from yours. My choices are way different from yours. Okay? Probably one of my choices is to buy a Mercedes. You do not have that as one of your choices. You're probably one of the maximum choice you have probably is probably to buy an expensive smartphone. Probably. Okay, at your age, because you do not earn the money, you receive allowances. Okay, but the point here that we want to make in economics is that no matter how rich or poor you are, income is always a constraining factor. A person like Donald Trump, who is a very rich businessman, okay, he has an income constraint. Somebody will ask me, well, how come he has an income constraint? You never know what's in his mind. He probably wants to rule the world. He probably wants to own 10 yachts or an island. Okay, so always we assume an income. The same thing applies to governments and countries. Have you ever heard that a certain country, let us look at USA for example. Do you think that USA does not have a budget deficit? ما عندهمش عجز في الموازنة because they are a rich country? Okay, definitely they are not. There is no country in the world, even the Gulf states, دول اللي في الخليج, all of them they have budget constraint. Budget, it means income, simply. So whether you talk about countries, whether you talk about individuals, everybody has a limiting factor that is called income, the money, the budget for the government, and the allowance for yourself, and the income for my case. Okay, but we have alternatives. Remember, we have so many type of choices. We must make choices. Okay, remember, you have to choose anyway. Okay, every time you make a choice, you encounter a sacrifice. Remember, I talked about that a lot in my classes with examples, and I talk a lot about that in video 1. I'm not going to repeat it here because inshallah, if I do that, I will never finish that video. Okay, here it says that we sacrifice some amount of one good to get some amount of another good. So we make choices. Okay, this is called the opportunity cost, is the amount of sacrifice that you make. As a result of making the first best choice, it means that you sacrifice the second best choice, which is what you could have done and you didn't do because you made the first choice. And I gave you lots of examples. I'm not going to go through that again. Another way to measure opportunity cost, by the way, a very simple one we'll see later on, it is the slope of the function. Okay? Let us say that we put y horizontally, but I'm going to talk about that later on, but let me just put it here because I opened it. Let us say that we have y is a function of x. And let us say the relationship looks like that. Okay? In that case, okay, delta y divided by delta x tells you what? What will happen to y when x changes by 1 unit. Suppose that x is the amount of the number of hamburger sandwiches I eat, and y is the number of filet of fish sandwich I eat. Okay? In that case, in order to increase, let us say that delta y divided by delta x, which is the slope here. Sorry for the bad handwriting. Delta y divided by delta x, let us say it is negative for sure. Let us say it is minus 2. What does it mean, minus 2? It means in order to increase, remember x is the number of hamburger sandwiches consumed. Y is the number of filet of fish sandwich consumed. Here, if the slope of that relationship is minus 2, it means that in order for me to increase the number of hamburger sandwiches by 1, if you wanted to consume 1 extra hamburger sandwich, you have to sacrifice the consumption of 2 filet of fish sandwiches. And this is the measure of the opportunity cost. This is the measure of your sacrifice. Because here, remember, you are between two things and two things only, because we have a two-dimensional graph. You either, let us say that you assume that you have a situation where you either consume hamburgers all the way, or filet of fish sandwiches all the way, or somewhere in between. Because people like to verify, people would like to consume some hamburgers along with some filet of fish. Okay, if the relationship that is displayed here, which is the number of hamburger sandwiches measured horizontally, the number of filet of fish sandwich measured vertically, then in that case the slope of that relationship is delta y divided by delta x, which is what will happen to y when x changes by 1 unit. Here the answer is minus 2. What does it mean, minus 2? It means that if you want to increase the consumption of hamburger sandwich by 1 sandwich, you have to decrease the number of filet of fish sandwiches by 2, because you do not have the money to buy to consume more of both. Okay, this is an example of a measure of opportunity cost. Between alternatives A, B, and C, which one is better for you? The one that gives you the biggest satisfaction, or the happiness, or utility. Utility here is a word, the technology, a terminology that we use in the science of economics to indicate happiness, satisfaction, or pleasure. مقدار الانبساط اللي بيجي لك. Because the word utility in the English language is different. Okay? In your homes you have what is called water utility, what is called electricity utility. Okay? اللي هي خدمة الكهرباء اللي بتجيلك وخدمة المية اللي بتجيلك. This is not what we mean in economics. Utility in economics, it means satisfaction, pleasure, or happiness. And this is what the consumers wanted to maximize given their limited income. Okay? This is the economic problem for the consumer. Okay? Now, my opportunity cost is the second best thing. Forgone, it means I sacrificed, not chosen. Okay? As a result of making the first best choice. Now we are trying to find the definition of economics. It is a social science. It's all about people. Economic theory uses reasoning to assess benefits and costs of decisions. Every time when you make any decision, as you will see inshallah when you grow old 50 years from today, making decisions is all about assessing or evaluating the benefits and the costs of your action. If the benefits overweigh or are more than the cost, you go ahead and you do the action. If costs of the action are more than the benefits, you never do the action. And that's what economic theory is all about. Economics can be defined as allocation of scarce resources. I told you allocation before is a terminology that we use in the science of economics to indicate how much of the resource you put for a certain use. Okay? تخصيص. How much of that scarce resource you put for a certain use. Remember, you have so many competing uses. بيتنافسوا مع بعضها. Okay, the objective in the end is to satisfy our human want. So here, economics is concerned with future. What will happen if we take that action? And this is the definition. Social science is all about people. Economic theory uses reasoning to assess benefit and cost. Economics can be defined as the allocation, the science, the social science, the pure social science that cares about allocating scarce resources among competing uses, okay, or alternative uses to satisfy human needs and wants. Okay. Another definition here, the social science that deals with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services, and with the theory of management of economies or economic systems. We will study economic systems later on, okay? But forget about that. It's all what I told you in class is enough. What is objective economics? Why do you have economics? To overcome scarcity by improving efficiency of resource use and allocation. Okay, here what we are trying to do is the word efficiency, it means minimizing waste. Okay, in order for us to combat scarcity, to solve the problem of scarcity, to overcome the problem of scarcity, لحل مشكلة الندرة, we have to improve efficiency of resource allocation or resource use. It means that we have to not waste the resource. This is objective of economics. Remember, to economize, it means to use the resource optimally. Or to economize in the use of something, it means to use it optimally. What does it mean to use it optimally? It means to reduce the amount of wastes. Okay, do not waste the resource. Okay, use the resource but don't waste it. Shower, but do not please sing for 15 minutes or 20 minutes while you are showering because you enjoy the water coming over your body. This is a waste of water because all that water goes down the drain. We have two branches of economics, two main ones. One is called the microeconomics, one is called the macroeconomics. Microeconomics, they call it in Arabic التحليل الاقتصادي الجزئي. Macroeconomics, they call it in Arabic التحليل الاقتصادي الكلي. In microeconomics, we study the individual, the behavior of the individual. Okay, individuals who could be individual producers or individual consumers or individual companies and firms. If I study the behavior of the company, okay, or the enterprise or the business is considered, if I examine a company, this is called the microeconomic analysis. Because to us in economics, the company is one single economic agent. Okay, it makes decisions by its own. Remember, they have a board of directors, and the board of directors must make unanimous decisions in order to be able to achieve a certain production activity or marketing activity. Okay, so microeconomics, this is a study of the small, that's why the word micro comes. Small units, either individual producers or individual consumers. And as I told you, individual producers could be the family. The family is considered an individual producer. Individual consumer. Okay, despite that the family could be a father, a mother, and 8 kids. But remember, when they make decisions, not every individual in the family makes a separate decision. They make collective decisions. Okay, and that's why they considered one economic agent. The household, the family is one economic agent. And the same thing for the producers. Okay, for example, one of the questions that we will address in consumption theory this year, how the family spends its income, and in production next semester, inshallah, how the family spends its limited income in order to maximize their satisfaction or utility or happiness or pleasure, and for the firm, how the firm will use the scarce resources and inputs available to maximize their profit. Macroeconomics, which we will not study in our course, inshallah you will study that when you study with me. If you attend the economics and agribusiness department, you will take a lot of macroeconomics with me. If you take courses with me, I teach a lot of courses. More than actually 80% of the courses offered in the English section is offered by me. Macroeconomics, you study the behavior of the country as a whole. Okay? And the country as a whole, it means who makes the decisions at the level of the country as a whole? It is the government. So as a result, we say that if you study the behavior of the government, because the government is the decision maker for the whole country, we are studying macroeconomics. What are the things that we study in macroeconomics? Unemployment, national income accounts, money supply, money demand, interest rates, balance of payments, business cycles, inflation, deflation. These are the issues that we study in macroeconomics, and this is not the scope at all of either our 03101 or 03102, which you will study next semester. It is not. Now we have another type of terminology that you will see called the positive economics and normative economics. Positive economics, they translate it as الاقتصاد الوصفي. Normative economics, they call it as الاقتصاد التحليلي. So positive economics, okay, it means that you are analyzing a positive statement. What is a positive statement? It is an objective statement, okay? Usually an objective statement, not usually, actually it is what it is. It is a statement that has that does not contain your subjective opinion. It doesn't contain your personal opinion about something. Okay? Usually you're describing things. Suppose that I want to, for example, analyze the economic. I'm going to give you an example here. Normative, it means that you are doing analysis, okay? And in your doing your analysis, there is a value judgment, because whoever will do the analysis, his opinions or her opinions is affecting the results of the analysis and the scope of the analysis and the type of the analysis. So positive, let us say that I'm going to conduct positive economic analysis for the water problem in Egypt. We know that in Egypt we have a water shortage problem. When I conduct a positive economic analysis for that water problem, what do? I tell the country, what do we have? Okay, we have, let us say, this much surface water, this much groundwater, this much rain. These are the seasons where it rains. This is how much is withdrawn from the groundwater aquifers or groundwater reservoirs. This is how much is discharged and recharged by rain or by other things. This is how much is wasted. This is how much of it is used in agriculture, how much of it is used in industry, how much of it is used in entertainment. Okay, how much of it is wasted here, and there. What are the prices that are charged here and there? Here I am describing what we have, simply. Okay, my personal opinion is not in the story. Okay, it is all based on facts and figures and supposedly an objective type of analysis. Objective, it means that my subjective, my opinion, my personal opinion is not in the story. Okay, suppose that I want to analyze, conduct a normative economic analysis for that same problem of water shortage in Egypt. In that case, I'm gonna tell the government, given what we have in terms of resources, this much should be go to agriculture, this much should be go to industry, this much go to commerce, this much should go to entertainment, and even in agriculture, this much should be go to, let us say, cotton, this much should be go to wheat, this much should be go to rice, and so on. When I do that in terms of an economic analysis, what we call it normative, I have assumptions, I have a method of analysis, okay, that has to be scientific, and my personal opinion about things is in the story. It is in there, which means that I might come up with solution by conducting normative analysis to the problem of water, and I tell the country or the government what they should do and how much of water should go here and there. Okay, what are the ways to reduce the waste and all these kind of things. But if somebody else other than Shireen will do the same type of analysis, the results might be different. If a third person will do a type of analysis, the results might be different. If a fourth type of a person will do that same analysis, the results might be different. All of us may be correct, and all of us may be wrong, or some of us might be correct and some of us might be wrong. This is normative analysis. Okay? So now did you get the difference between positive and normative analysis? Positive, it means that you are describing what we have. Okay? Usually it is objective. Yani objective, it means that your personal view is not in the story. Normative analysis, it means that your values, you have what we call it value judgment. Okay? Here you are talking about what should be done given what you believe in and what you learned. And if you are a different person, probably the solution will be different. And as I told you, probably 5 people might analyze a problem. We get 5 different solutions. Probably all of them are right, or probably all of them are wrong, or probably some of them are right and wrong based on whether they followed the economic reasoning in their analysis or not. Okay, so here it says positive economics. What can be? We use reason, evidence, and observation. Example, how to increase my profit, buy a piece of land or rent a piece of land. But actually, to tell you the truth, the examples that are written here are not convincing. But the examples I just told you, they are very convincing. Normative, I told you what should happen. What should we do? Okay? Here we have value judgment. Example, what I should do to increase profit. What is value judgment? As it says here, economists have different views, as I told you. 5 people analyzed the same story using normative economic analysis and they came out with different results. Because our religion affects, our views of the problem is affecting the story, our ethics, akhlaqiyatna, wal morals, customs, traditions, affect the family system or social system that we live in, affect our attitudes, affect everything that you are born with, affects your value judgment. Okay? And that is used in normative economic analysis but not in positive economic analysis. Both types of analysis, by the way, are very valuable. Do not think that because I'm going to describe, I'm going to tell the country, hey guys, what do we have and how much is wasted here, how much is used here, that is not valuable, because I do not tell them what they should do, okay, which is made in the normative economic analysis. But because a lot of times we do not know what we have, believe it or not. We do not know how much is wasted, believe it or not. I'm talking about the government level in all countries of the world. I'm not talking about Egypt in particular. So do not think this is not valuable, okay? Now I'm going to talk about the last piece of thing in this set of PowerPoints, which is the use of graphs and the mathematics in economic analysis, okay? Why do we use graphs, okay? We use two-dimensional graphs, اللي هي رسومات ثنائية الأبعاد, because they are easier, they are clearer, they are visual, you can see them, okay? A graph, what is a graph? A two-dimensional graph, a relation between two variables. What about the rest of the variables involved in the story? We assume that remember, Ceteris paribus. Okay, if you are analyzing two variables, if you are measuring x1 horizontally, x2 vertically, it means you are studying the relationship between both, given that the other x's or the other y's or whatever other variables are held constant at the time of making that graph. Okay? They are tools of analysis. Okay, every graph must have the following. The graph must have a title. For example, let us say I'm graphing quantity demanded of tomatoes and the price of tomatoes, and I'm studying the relationship between them, giving that everything else affecting the quantity demanded of tomatoes is held constant at the time of studying the relationship between the price of tomatoes and the quantity demanded of tomatoes, knowing that we have something called the law of demand, which is as the price of tomatoes goes up, I know that the quantity demanded of tomatoes will go down, and as the price of tomatoes will go down, the quantity demanded of tomatoes will go up, giving that all other variables affecting the quantity demanded of tomatoes, such as income, price of substitutes, price of complements, taste, and all that is held constant. I have to have a title. What is the title for that graph? It should be demand function for tomatoes. This is the title. Now, after that, I have to label the axis. Okay? Remember, axis, this is singular. If you want to make it plural, you make it axes. A-X-E-S. يعني محاور. Okay? So the plural of axes is axes, which is A-X-E-S. Okay? To label the axis means they have to, okay, now what is the name of the variable measured on the horizontal axis? Okay, in the case of the demand function, it will be the quantity demand. What is the name or the label of the axis measured vertically? It will be the own price of tomatoes. Okay, that's if I graph a demand function. The scale now, after that, the scale. What is the scale? The units of measurement. I am measuring the quantity demanded of tomatoes, the quantity consumed or demanded of tomatoes horizontally. Am I measuring that by grams, by kilograms, by pounds, اللي هي الرطل? Okay, by bags, by meters. طبعا you cannot measure quantity demanded of tomatoes by meters. Yeah. Okay, these are all. It's called the scale. Now we come to the vertical axis. I put money, the price. The price, is it measured in Egyptian pound or dollar or sterling or euro or what? Okay, so this must be on any graph. Okay, now we come to the, remember I talked about that already in video number 1. Okay, the quadrant. We have 4 quadrants, in the science, in mathematics. These are the 4 quadrants. This is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And this is quadrant 4. In economics, we always operate in quadrant 1 because the variables in the science of economics, as I told you in video 1, are either positive or 0. Okay? So I'm not going to elaborate here more because I already explained that in my video 1. I explained that a lot and I give you with examples. As I said before, what is the minimum price you can charge? 0 price. It means that the product is for free. Okay? You don't have a negative price. Okay? What is the least amount that you can consume, or the least amount that you can produce, or the least amount you can import, or the least amount that you can export? It's 0. It cannot be negative. Okay? What is the least amount of income? 0 income. Okay? So this is the plural that I told you about, the word X. Okay? we have to have a dependent variable. The dependent variable in any of our graphs, remember our graph will be the first quadrant here. If I put y here, if I put x here, it means y is the dependent variable, x is the independent variable, or y is the argument of the function and x is the explanatory variable. And because I'm using two-dimensional graph, the assumption of ceteris paribus holds. It means that I'm studying the relationship between x and y, which is what will happen to y when x changes, okay, given that all the other x's affecting y are held constant at the time of analysis. Homogeneous units, it means that if I measure x, let us say quantity demanded, for example, using kilograms, it has to be kilograms all the way. I cannot measure this one in kilogram, but this one in tons, for example. I cannot do that. It is either tons all the way or kilograms all the way. And here I have to measure it in money. It could be, I cannot measure it in pounds here, but in dollars here. I cannot do that. Okay, this is homogeneous units. Divisibility, in order for me to have a smooth curve, let us say that I have a curve that looks like this. Okay, it means that any curve, remember any straight line is composed of 2 points only. Any smooth curve, يعني منحنى ناعم, is composed of infinite number of points. How many is infinity? Infinity is infinity, ما لا نهاية. Okay, remember, in order for me to graph my nose, I'm going to graph my nose. Okay, this is my nose. How many points do I need here? A point here, a point here, and a point here. And this is my nose. Now suppose that, so I need 3 points to graph my nose that's not having a smooth graph. Suppose I want to make my nose the correct way, which looks like this. Okay, this curve right here, along with this curve right here, you need infinite number of points. Okay, this is what it's talking about. So in order to have a smooth graph, you have to have divisibility. Divisibility means what? Okay, it means that you can have the pound, 2 pounds, and everything in between. The kilogram and the first kilogram and the second kilogram and everything in between. This is an example of a straight line relationship. Here we have y is a function of x. Here we don't care about what y is and what x is. If you have a relationship that is linear and looks like that, in this graph, we say that it is a positive relationship. What does it mean, positive relationship? As x goes up, y will go up. As x goes down, y will go down. Okay, this one we call it negative relationship. Here, as x goes up, y will go down. And as x goes down, y will go up. Remember, every time I talk about a change in x and seeing what will happen to y, because y is the dependent variable and x is the independent variable in both graphs. Here, in order for me to graph that relationship, I only need 2 points, any 2 points, and then connect. And the same thing here, any 2 points and then connect. The slope of that graph, I need to calculate it once. What is the slope? It is delta y divided by delta x. I need to calculate that once. And whatever number that you will get is constant. For this graph, I can say that, let us choose a number, I'm going to make it 3, for example. It means that as x goes up by 1 unit, y will go up by 3 units, or as x goes down by 1 unit, y will go down by 3 units. For this type of graph, okay, I'm going to say that the slope is negative. So delta y divided by delta x is equal to, let us say, -2. What does it mean, -2? As x goes up by 1 unit, y will go down by 2 units, or as x goes down by 1 unit, y will go up by 2 units. Okay, you need to calculate the slope only once. Remember, the slope has so many names, as I told you in video 1. It has the name of rate of change of y with respect to x, or rate of change of the dependent variable with respect to the independent variable, slope of the function, first derivative of the function, or as we will learn, these are all mathematics. Now we have something, a terminology that we use in economics for the first derivative. It is called the marginal function, but we will talk about that later on. Okay, so slope, first derivative, rate of change, or marginal function, these are all names for delta y divided by delta x. For a straight line, you need to do that once. Okay, now what is the meaning of the slope? Let us compare that line with another line. I'm going to make another line that has another positive slope that will look like this. This is another straight line. I'm going to call that line 1. I'm going to call that line 2. Which one is more sloped, line 1 or line 2? In order to know, imagine yourself standing here. And imagine yourself standing here. Do you think you will fall faster on line 1 or you will fall faster on line 2? You will fall faster on line 2 because line 2 is more sloped than line 1. This is the meaning of slope. انحدار. لو انت واقف هنا هتقع أبطأ من لو انت واقف هنا. Suppose you have a line like this, straight line like that. Can you stand here? And the answer is no, because the slope is infinity. If you have a line like this, completely horizontal and parallel to the horizontal axis, if you are standing here, would you ever fall? The reason? You will never fall because the slope is 0. This is the meaning of the slope. And I explained that again in my PowerPoint, in my video 1. Okay? And the same thing here. Remember here when we talk about the slope, there is something very important. Remember, this is a positive slope, so you know that if the slope of line 1, for example, is 3, you know that the slope of line 2 is definitely more than 3. Okay, this is line 2, by the way. This is line 2 and this is line 1. Okay? Suppose that we have a negative line like this one. Let us say one like that. I'm going to call this one line 1 and this one line 2. Okay? Which one is more sloped? Imagine yourself standing here. Would you fall faster if you are standing here? And the answer is line 2 is more sloped compared to line 1. Now, what about the value? Remember, the value is minus. So if the slope of line 1, is minus 2, the slope of line 2 must be bigger than minus 2. Minus 2, bigger than minus 2, it means it could be minus 5. Because in mathematics, in economics, when we talk about the slope, we look at the absolute value of the slope. Okay? So to us, minus 5 is bigger than minus 2. Please remember that. So if the slope of line 1 here is minus 2, the slope of line 2 here, which is more sloped, because I told you that if you are standing here, you will fall. If you are standing here, you will fall faster than if you are standing here. In that case, I say that line 2 is more sloped than line 1. If the slope of line 1 is minus 2, then the slope of line 2 must be bigger than minus 2, which could be anything bigger than 2. Okay, I said minus 5. Okay, what does it mean minus 5? It means that if x goes up by 1 unit, y will go down by 5 units. Okay? Now we come to the curve. Suppose that we have a curve like that. These are two smooth curves. These are two smooth curves. How many points? I told you for a straight line you need 2 points only. But what about for a curve? You need infinite number of points. Okay? In order for that to be smooth. Okay? So here, I want to measure the slope. Here, in order for me to determine the slope, which is again, slope again is delta y divided by delta x. But the question is, how many delta y divided by delta x I need to calculate in order to determine the slope? And the answer is infinite number of delta y divided by delta x you have to calculate. I cannot tell you what is the slope of that curve. I have to tell you what is the value of the slope of that curve. I have to tell you at what point you want me to measure the slope in order me to be able to talk about the slope, because there are infinite number of points. I'm going to take the extremes. I'm going to measure the slope at this point. In that case, I take a tangent at that point. And then see the angle that tangent makes with the horizontal axis. Okay? Imagine that line. Forget about all the hocus pocus I just mentioned. Imagine a tangent. A tangent is a straight line. I want to measure, oppose that to the slope right here. I'm going to take a tangent over here. Okay? Now, which one? Remember, the slope here is positive in general. As x goes up for that curve, y goes up. But y goes up here at an increasing rate. How did I know it is an increasing rate? Look at the slope here of that tangent. الممس ده. Okay. Which one has a bigger? Compare that straight line with that straight line. If you are standing here, would you fall faster, or if you are standing here? Definitely up there. So we say that as the value of x goes up, okay, the value of y goes up at an increasing rate. It means that every time we move from point 1 here to point 2 here, the value of the slope keeps on increasing and it is positive. Okay? Till you reach this point, probably, if you take a tangent here, the slope will be infinity. So we say here, as x goes up, y goes up at an increasing rate. Why? Because we have a smooth curve that we're talking about. Look at that curve right here. Okay, this is another positive relationship. Okay, suppose that you have, I want to measure the slope at this point. I'm going to take a tangent here. Sorry, this is not a tangent, sorry. I want to take a tangent here at this point. I want to measure the slope here. I'm going to make a tangent here. Here, which line is more sloped? As you can see, this line, line 1, is more sloped than line 2. Okay, it means that the slope at this point of the curve, of the smooth curve, is more than the slope here, because actually the slope at point 2 is almost 0. Okay, here we say that as x goes up, y goes up at a decreasing rate, because the slope at line 2 is less than the slope at line 1, as opposed to that case. The slope at point 2 is more than the slope at line 1. Here, as x goes up, the slope increases. Here, as x goes up, y goes up at an increasing rate. But here, as x goes up, y goes up at a decreasing rate. The word rate, it means the slope. It means delta y divided by delta x, or delta dependent variable divided by delta independent variable. Okay? Another type of, so here we say that we have many relationships. This is summary. Not all are covered because we have so many cases. We have positive and negative slopes, independent, linear, non-linear, continuous, maximum, minimum. All that is hocus pocus. You don't need even to read it. A straight line is this is important. The slope of the straight line is constant, which means that once you determine delta y by delta x, which is the slope of the straight line, you need to do it only once. But in order to do that for a curve, you have to identify on which point on the curve you want me to measure the slope. And because it is a curve, it could be increasing at an increasing rate like that, or increasing at a decreasing rate like this, or decreasing at here. If you measure the slope here versus the slope here, it will be increasing, decreasing at a decreasing rate. Or if you have something like this, they will be increasing, decreasing at a decreasing rate again. Okay, so these are the cases that you can have. You have so many cases about the curve. Sometimes the curve can look like this. Okay, it means that here and this part, suppose that we have here x and y. For this first part of the graph, as x goes up, y increases at a decreasing rate. Then the slope will be here 0. After that, as x increases, y will be decreasing. Okay? At an increasing rate. It will be decreasing at an increasing rate. Okay? And so on. We have so many cases that you can talk about. What is the slope of the curve that I kept talking about? It is the slope of the curve. It is the change in the dependent variable divided by the change in the independent variable. If our dependent variable, if we have a function like that, this one is y and this one is x, so then the story holds here. Okay, because the dependent variable is measured vertically and the independent variable is measured horizontally. What will happen to y when x changes by 1 unit? And I remember, guys, I told you, okay, that y by 1 unit, I told you, let us make a point here. And let us make a point here. Let us graph that straight line by connecting the 2 points. Okay, this point, let us say it is, I'm going to read it as 5 and 4. And this point here has to be by 2 and 1. Okay, remember this is the point right here. And this is the point right here. Okay, now the value of x, did the value of x here, what is the value of x here? Here it is 2, and here the value of x is 5. And the value of y here is 1, and here the value of 5 is 4. Did x increase by 1 unit here. Suppose that I want to calculate the slope of that line. It is positive. I know it is positive. As x goes up, y goes up. I want to know by how much. I'm going to calculate delta y divided by delta x. What is delta y? The change in the value of y. It is equal to, what is the change in the value of y? It doesn't matter which one you consider first, okay? But you have to be consistent. If you consider this point 2 and 1 to be the origin, this is the old, it means that 5 and 4 is the new one. So I'm going to say y1 minus y2. What is y1? y1 is 1 minus y2 is 4. Divided by, as long as I said y1 minus y2, I have to say x1 divided by x1 minus x2. What is x1, 2? What is x2, 5? So it is minus 3 divided by minus 3, which is equal to 1. What does it mean 1? It means that if x goes up by 1 unit, y will go up by 1 unit. But the question is, did x go up by 1 unit or x went up by 3 units? X went up by 3 units. But the value of delta y divided by delta x, which we got it here, this is delta y divided by delta x. This value that we got here for delta y divided by x is 1, which tells you that when x goes up by 1 unit, y will go up by 1 unit. Okay? It is equal to delta y, which is y1 minus y2, 1 minus 4, divided by x1 minus x2, which is 2 minus 5. 1 here means that's why they keep telling you when you were young, delta y divided by delta x means what happens to y when x changes by 1 unit. I hope that you are convinced at least. Okay? This is a summary. I'm not going to go through that, and this is the end of the class. Hopefully you got some benefit. Please use video 1 and video 2, and please try to assemble as many questions as possible to bug me with these questions once you see me in class. Okay, stay home, stay safe, bye-bye, take care of yourself.